Hey, welcome back to our show. This is the Year of Magical Learning, aka YOML. It's good to be back. This is a Monday. We've had a long weekend just because last week Chris has some running for
Trains.
trains.
I had some trains to catch.
Had some trains to catch. So,
Yeah.
we had a short week last week. So I'm glad to be back. And today we're on Reflection 169. And I don't know. This is probably a different theme from the previous few that we had so far, but I'll let Chris introduce the reflection and let's talk about it.
Yeah. Have you ever read this book before?
No.
Okay. So this book's called Into the Wild. It is a book by the author Jon Krakauer, which he's the guy that wrote Into Thin Air, and the one we'll talk about that one later on. But he's a pretty famous author that writes about they're I don't know, I can never remember what to call this, but he's writing about, in this scenario, a person who's already passed away. So is this a biography?
Yes,
A
biography.
biography. Okay. All right. So this is this book is called Into the Wild. It's a pretty famous cover. I don't know if you recognize this cover. The guy on the bus on the top up there. Anyway, it's a pretty famous book. And like kids read it in school and stuff like that, and like high school and whatever. So my reflection title of this one is There Has to Be Another Way. So first, what's this book about? So this book's about this guy named Christopher Johnson McCandless. He grew up in a pretty wealthy family, and he went to Emory University. And after he graduated, he took the rest of his college fund, and then he just drove away toward the western part of the country. The Emory's in Georgia. He just took his car and drove west, and gave away all of his possessions, and got rid of all of his money, and he just took a 10-pound bag of rice and a 22 caliber. Eventually, he ended up making his way up into Alaska. He decided that after a few years of tramping around, was what he called it or whatever in the book. He was kind of living literally like paycheck to paycheck, like lived in kind of trailer parks and whatever, and anywhere he could find a place he could stay for a little bit. And then he would, he was a vagabond. He would just kind of pick up and move and go to new places and do a job for a few weeks to make a little bit of money, and then move on to the next place, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. At one point in time, he was super into like philosophy and things like that, and he was a pretty well educated person. He was college educated, and he was doing that. He was going massively counterculture, from the world that he was raised in, and on his own search for meaning, basically, a lot of times. So at one point in time on his journey, he decided, I'm going to go to the Alaskan bush, and try to just live off the land. So he took a little survival guide, and was woefully unprepared, and took like a 10-pound bag of rice, and a gun, and a camera, and he walked into the Alaskan bush to try to survive on his own. And unfortunately, he passed away after 113 days of being in the Alaskan bush. And then eventually his journal was found, and this is the story as written by Jon Krakauer of this guy's life. He never met him, never knew him, but he was just kind of fascinated by the story that he came across, and then went and interviewed a lot of these people that knew of him as in his last few years before his life. And then a lot of it's speculation about what may or may not have happened while he was in Alaska, with based off of his journals and things like that he left, and some of the books that he was reading. So that's what this book's about, right? Long story short, the guy died, and his family was devastated, and a lot of people asking, like, how the hell did this happen, right? Like what the hell, right? So that's what the story's about. Any questions at a high level?
So, does he have any kind of mental illness?
No, no, he was totally. I mean, for all intents, from every account of anybody that knew him, he was just a person that was searching for meaning. I mean, honestly, I mean, that was
I mean, the what that comes to mind is that what makes him wants to leave his college and give away all his stuff and move on. What make
What was the
It,
atomic bomb event that drove him down this
yeah,
road? Yeah, I
exactly.
don't know that.
There is
No,
something.
yeah, there was something. I mean, there was something, and I don't think anybody ever knew it necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because once again, this is a, this is a biographical account of his life. Nobody was ever able to interview. Like, this was a story. Jon Krakauer was trying to piece together like what the hell happened, and he's
Mm-hmm.
speculating a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times. Like, nobody really knows like what drove. Even his own family doesn't know what drove him to go do what he was doing. But nonetheless, he did. So that's kind of what the whole mystery of this whole book. That's why the reflection title this is There Has to Be Another Way. So the reason, like, here's this book. After I finished it, all I could think about was like, why did there has to be another way? Like this poor guy was, I feel for him because like I think all he was trying to do was to discover himself, learn what he cared about, and find out who he really was, embrace being a human, and find meaning and purpose in this world. I think that was all that he was trying to do. But he did it alone. Number one, one of our core values is don't do it alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he decided to do this alone, and he actively and purposely wanted to do it alone, which I think was the biggest mistake he personally could have made in this regard. I think there would have been plenty of people that would have gone down this road if he had a Jazzy Jeff with him or something like that, to go, to have this to take this journey with him to try to figure this stuff out. I mean, you and I, we could both be alone in our journeys, and I could still be, feeling like I did the day after Amelia passed away, and totally shit spiral, going down the other way. I could have ended up in the Alaskan bush by myself trying to find purpose and meaning, I mean, like I mean, who the hell knows what the hell would have happened, right? But when you have other people around you like that, that's one of the reasons why that's one of my core values is don't do it alone, So, but ironically, like this is, I feel a kindred soul with him because I think he was just doing the same thing that we're trying to do right now with your magical learning, where he was trying to explore, learn, reflect, have that time, embrace humanity, and get back to his roots of understanding like why we do what we do and why he does what he does, and like that's what a lot of this book's about. And this actually is what made me start to think about a question that you and I talk about all the time. He went to extremes to go try to figure this thing out, right? And I went to extremes not on purpose, but I went to extremes in my own life by losing my daughter through the atomic blast, and that was when I learned a lot of the lessons we learned that I've learned that have been shaping this journey and shaping the rest of my purpose and meaning and direction going forward in life. So I've personally been troubled by this question, and you and I have talked about this a million times, is can you learn the lessons of life that you need to uncover without going to the extremes? And like, this is something that I just can't get out of my head. You and I have talked about this, and we can talk about this when I'm done, because I'm sure we'll have, plenty of thoughts to talk about. I go back and forth on this one all the time of like, is it possible to learn what Chris McCandless would have learned going into the Alaskan bush, and had he survived, how that may have shaped his life, and guided, his vision in the future kind of thing. Or, like for me, I would give anything to have my daughter back here. And we've talked about this a million times, over in the past, but like, I don't know that I would have ever learned the lessons that I've learned in my life without that seminal event shaping what's going on with my life at this point in time either. And I'm not saying that's good or bad at this point in time. I'm very torn on all this stuff because, it means my daughter's not here. And I feel like I have a better grasp of my life these days, but at the same time, like, it was found in the extremes. So, I've been really, really troubled by this. And I know that you and I, that's one of the reasons why we started Clubbing, because we want to find a way to have people to be able to find purpose and meaning, to help people to find purpose and meaning without having to go to the extremes of life and having an atomic bomb event or forcing an atomic bomb event like Chris McCandless did, to try to find that purpose and that meaning. Right. So, I think there's gotta be another way. I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's gotta be another way, but I can't see it sometimes. And, I don't know. I do not know the answer. Humility, right? Another core value. I do not know
Right.
if it's
Wait,
possible,
I don't
but
know
yeah,
shit. You don't know shit. But the thing
right.
is, what shit I don't know, you know. What shit you don't know, I know. And that's, to me, is what I think about when you were talking through your reflection. Is it's about balance, right? And I
Yeah.
know there is other ways. There are always other options because I see them. I see them all the time. Because for me and you, right, it's about the balance. You say that you don't want to do things alone. Why is that? Because how do you see your back?
Can't. I mean, like, I
You
guess, you
cannot
know,
see your back by
God.
yourself. No.
I mean,
You
I don't,
you are a manifestation of God, but you
yeah,
still can't see your back. The only
yeah,
person who can see your back is your friend.
right. A
He
meaningful
sees your
relationship.
back and he'll tell you exactly. That's exactly what I want to drive home. It's about meaningful relationship. You can search for your purpose, but if you're spiraling out of control, who is your lifeline? If you're sinking into the quicksand, who is gonna be there to save you? When you go into quicksand, I save you. When I go into the quicksand, you save me.
Right.
Because the journey is gonna be riddled with all these obstacles and conflicts and resistance. To me, the number one, the most number one important, you know, core value you can have is never do it alone. And
I agree.
you took it to heart, and I took it to heart because you think about it, right? I can't see my back, and you can't see your back, but I can see your back. I have your back, you have my
Yeah.
back. That's why we are so much safer and so much better together. This is why a meaningful relationship is so important. To have meaningful work requires meaningful relationship because otherwise you will get lost and you won't be able to get to the point where you have meaningful work.
Yeah. I agree. And it doesn't even matter if you do meaningful work, like if you don't have anybody to share it with either, you know, like
Right, because even if you
it
don't have meaningful work, you're on this quest, right?
right.
You're on this quest because like a lot of times you're running for trains, and I tell Chris, say, hey, why are you running for trains? Because the thing
Right.
is, I'm reminding you, say, hey, are we doing things we set out? I'm keeping you in check,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you keeping me in check. Because if I were to go by myself, I would go into this rabbit hole and I don't even know it. And even if I know it, I don't know how to get out.
Yeah, you end up in the Alaskan bush and you're like, and you're
Exactly.
living and you're like poisoning yourself with berries you didn't know you should eat and you know, stuck you know,
Who's gonna save you when you eat the poison berry? That's what I'm
no
saying
one.
is even if you have only one other person,
You might get lucky, but I mean it's not gonna, you know.
if you have only one other person to have your back, your chances of survival increases tremendously.
Right.
Your chance of finding your purpose increases tremendously.
I agree.
Your chance of finding meaningful work and beavering on purpose increases tremendously. And so I cannot stress how important it is for us to understand the core around meaningful relationship. Meaningful relationship is one of the tantamount core value of company. Meaningful work, meaningful relationship, and that is like yin and yang. You need both of them to be because they're in this circle.
Yeah.
If you don't have those two, you can just follow the footprint.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you can look around the castle. You, I mean, that's to me. You and I were doing this like you think about it. Company is something you and I did, right?
Right.
And for the longest time, it's just you and me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's just you and me for the
Yeah.
past 2.5 years.
For sure. Yeah. I
we
for
didn't quit, we didn't die, and it's even give me even more of um a conviction
I agree.
for
Yeah.
who I want to become
I
and the
agree.
journey that we've been on. I mean, I feel even more strong conviction now than I was before. And
A
that's
hundred
just the two
percent.
of us. It's not just like a bunch of people or anything like that. What I'm saying is, just you and me, right? You have my back, and I have your back. That creates this strong, independent, like ability to move forward.
Agreed. I mean, it's remarkable. Honestly, you've over this journey, you've kind of have flipped the narrative for me a little bit because my thought was meaningful work comes first, and then you build meaningful relationships around the meaningful work, right? Um, I think we had this debate, you know,
But the thing
I
is,
can't,
like I
you know,
say, it's yes and no because, like I'm asking you before, if you and me were running in a circle, who's in front and who's behind?
it's always not both.
Exactly. That's my point. So
right,
meaningful
yeah,
relationship, meaningful work is in that framework of mine. It's
I
that
know.
it's a yin and the yang, right?
Right.
Because you're 2 point, you rely on each other, right?
Right.
Those two concepts rely on each other to become one, which is whatever you want to call it. Because when you're in a circle, the guy in front of you is also the guy behind you.
Yeah, that's true. No, I mean, I agree. I guess what I was gonna say was I was pretty adamant that meaningful work comes first and then meaningful relationships follow. I don't know that that's the case anymore.
No, I don't think that's the case. I think it could. You can argue either way because, like I'm telling you, like when you are looking for meaningful work, right? Without the guy who doing, like you say, don't do it alone. How do you find meaningful work if you don't have somebody to make sure that they give you the energy when you're down?
I mean,
To
we
me,
don't like
this is the most important, most important part, because if I were to be distracted and sidetracked, right, who's going to pull me back? So how can I achieve meaningful work if I don't have somebody to have my back?
I
And
don't know
if
that
I
you can.
spiral out of control, then how do I know that I'm completely out of it?
How do you not end up in the African
Exactly.
How do you not end up in the Alaskan bush and people are going, what the hell happened to that guy? Like, what, like, I mean, like that's the thing. It's like this is the second Jon Krakauer book that I've read, and this is the first one that I had read on this journey. And the other one you and I have already talked about of into thin air, about the Everest party that died up there, and we talked about this already, like, and we'll talk about it again in the future when we get to this reflection, but but like, and one-off conversation on the other end where like that infuriated me beyond belief, of like, like what's the point, like, like what, like why would you do that? But in this regard, I actually understand why he did what he did. Like I don't understand the Everest people, that are going up to just conquer stuff. Like, this guy wasn't trying to do anything revolutionary. He wasn't trying. He was just trying to find himself. Like,
he's just trying to find answers. The other
he was just
people
trying
were
to find answers. Yeah,
told that
right.
they were told that, hey, but it looks good if you can climb Mount Everest, and you
Right.
can tout to people, hey, I've on top of the world. Some sort of like BS, lame reason to do it. But if you're lost like this guy, he has to do it. He needs the answers he was looking for. But at the
Right.
same time, there are so many obstacles and so many traps that he has no way of escaping when he's already trapped. There's no friend to pull him out. There's no lifeline.
Get too deep into it. I mean, like, and like that. Like, this is kind of what this reflection was about, though. Is like there's just got to be another way for people to be able to find this stuff. Like, you don't need to do it alone. You don't also need to go to the extremes.
I think,
like,
I think that's part of the answer there, because I'm telling you that you and I are on this quest. We're on this life quest.
We could have easily
but
gone down the wrong rabbit
but
hole.
we have followed the footprint,
right?
Okay, the paw prints of Amelia. And the thing is, you and I have gotten better. There are some days that I'm completely out of my mind, and some days you're completely out of your mind.
Right.
But that's the thing is, I was able to save you, and you were able to save me. Because like, it's not like when you go on this journey, you will never hit an obstacle. You will. It's a guarantee.
Oh, for
How
sure.
you deal with it is going to determine whether you can continue or you don't. Well, for this guy, he couldn't continue because the trap just ended his journey.
I mean, the literally, like nature ended his journey. Like, I mean, like, that's the other thing, is when you have other people to do it with, like, while nature needs to be respected, like, the more there's power in the people and the power in the masses, to like you said, to figure out your blind spots, like, to help you to see a different, help you to keep you on course, like, I don't know. I do feel more optimistic as this journey goes on, that it is possible to find a meaning and purpose without having to go to the extremes to as the catalyst to start that journey, that quest, if you will. I still don't know how we're going to do it. And I still don't know how. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this, and I'm okay with not knowing the answer at this stage. But like, I know that it's possible. And I know that we'll figure it out eventually, because that's kind of what the mission is, a little bit, yeah, I mean,
But I don't think it's about finding out. It's about living the things that makes you feel like you're alive. I mean, what is it? I mean, you think about, like, we talk about this so many times that it becomes like trying to beat a dead horse to death, right?
Yeah,
But
right.
a beaver must dam, and the beaver is like, what's the point of beavering, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't
Right.
matter what is the end. The matter is I get to do it. I get to make the dam. I get to swim in the dam. I get
Right.
to, create these ecosystems. And so
My
for me and for you is, when we talk about these things, is we get energized by it. And whether or not we get to the point where we found the answer or not, to me, it doesn't matter as much, because for me, right, it's not about the end of a quest. It's about the continuation of the quest. It's like your life. If you were born, right, you don't want to look forward to the day you die.
right.
You look forward to keep going on living and keep experiencing.
Yep.
And that's, to me, is what I see in this journey. It's about, do I feel like I'm on the right path? Do I feel like I'm energized when I do things? Is the work I do manifesting the expressions of my DNA, right?
That's a good point. I mean, it's a really good point, because I think Chris McCandless, I don't know him obviously, and I don't know, nobody knows him. Like the story, like, wasn't a first party, account or anything like that. But like, one of the things that I actually personally feel like is, I think he wanted to go test if he should live or die or not in the African, or at the Alaskan bush. Like, to your point, was like, if you really know your purpose and your meaning, like, you want to keep doing that for as long as you can. Like, you don't want to tempt fate to figure out like where you're going with this or not. Like, I think he actually wanted to go walk that line, of should I be here or should I not be here? We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when I get pushed to the limit. And I think at the end of the day, I don't think he meant to kill himself, obviously, but
I mean, from what I've heard, he just looking for answers.
Yeah.
Just looking for answers, and it's the same thing. We're looking for answers, and today, as long as we are on a quest to fulfill that the manifestations of who we are, that all that matters. Because even if I found out that later on, I'm supposed to be something different, it doesn't matter, because
Right.
it's not about. Because let's say I ask you, okay, we are on this quest, and then we'll find the answers. The question I'm going to ask you next is, what's next? So it's always is a continuation. That's what we want. It's not to say this is the end. We never want the end. We never
Right.
ever want the end, because the end
Right.
means to stop, the end of
Yeah.
life, whatever.
It means
If
no more
you say, well,
curiosity.
I've got to this point where I found the answer, I found my purpose. The other questions I'm going to ask, the follow-up question is, then what? Right? It's always about, how do we continue this? So
Right.
the continuation is what me and you as a human wants. We want
I
us
get
to continue to the journey. We don't want the journey to end, because let's say you drive to a certain place, right? You want to drive to the next place, the next place, the next place.
Mhm.
This
Yeah.
is how the gene works. You want more and more and more, because that's the thing. But you have to satisfy the manifestations of your being. Like, I don't know if I'm being vague in terms of manifestation, is because when you are a certain animal, you just have to do certain things that animal does.
Mhm.
When you are a certain type of person, you just have to do a certain type of person that does it. If
Ah.
you are a writer, right? If you are a
Right.
writer, you must write. If you're a painter, you must paint. Period. You don't
But
have to, but
there's a caveat to that, like, because we are, um just like the omnivore's dilemma, right? Like, you know it's really nice to be a koala where all you have to know to eat is eucalyptus leaves, right? Like, but
you hate eucalyptus.
huh well, no, I know, I'm saying, but they're tied to only one thing. The beauty of what we can do is we can be a generalist and figure out what we want, right? Like, so you're saying that painter must paint,
It
like
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You are manifestations of who you are. A koala is a manifestation of the
no,
koala.
I know, but we get to
Therefore,
pick.
he
We
can.
have some
Oh,
agency, is what I was getting at.
no, no. Your agency came from who you are.
I know, but are also it's like the
No,
it's
your genes allow you to have this agency, this flexibility in these different options. That's your manifestations.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like I was
So
getting
that
at
means
the
when you have that kind of genes, you want to have the freedom to choose. That's what we want.
yeah,
Because
right,
that's the gene that wants to express.
correct. That's
It
a
makes
yeah,
you say, hey, I don't feel good if you limit my options. You think about it,
exactly. That's
right?
exactly what I
If
was
you
getting at.
limit my
Yeah.
options, I limit your options, you say, I don't feel good because that gene has been suppressed.
I guess all I was getting at is instead of saying a painter must paint or a beaver must dam or whatever it may be, or whatever other one you want to say, it's when you figure out that a painter must paint, that you're a painter, then you must paint. Like, not the other way around, because it's like for me it's the I'm going to start to call it the omni value dilemma, because you can do whatever you want to do in this world.
No, you can't.
You can express, yeah, you can. You
No, you
can.
can't.
No, you
No, you
can.
can't.
You
I
can.
cannot play
You can run
basketball.
uphill. You can wait. You can do the art
I
of running uphill and express every wrong value that doesn't align to your natural painter must paint or something like that, right? But you could do it if you want to. Like we could eat all the bad foods in the world too. Like we can do it. We're not
No,
supposed
you
to do
die.
it. Right? We're not supposed to do it, and we will kill ourselves
You
faster.
die because the thing is,
But
if I
but
eat the grass like the cows eat it, how long do you think I live? Probably not
I'm
past a whole week.
I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but all I know is you
But
can.
I'm telling you
Like
that if you were to eat grass like the cow eat for that day, you will die that day because of all the toxins in the grass that will kill you that day. No one can save you. I don't care if you get into the emergency room after that. Hey, you
really?
ingested
Like
so
if you
much
eat
of it.
grass, you'll die.
You try it?
No. I'm saying like is
You know
that
how
true?
much cow eats in a day?
I mean, a lot. Yeah.
How much hay they eat in a day?
I think they're a
Imagine
lot
you eat
heavier than
one
us, though.
half of it.
How much does the average cow weigh? I don't even know.
So what happened? Like even for water, right? We can drink water, but you
Mhm.
know that you can die by drinking a lot of water.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Of
I mean,
course, because
of
there has been
electrolytes.
people who die because their
Yeah.
cells are drowned in water, right?
That's
That's
kind of
what I'm
actually
saying.
it's kind of what actually happened to Amelia. They couldn't do um they had to pump her full of so many fluids because of all of her post her blood pressure dropping issues. And like when you put a lot of fluids in your body, like it
Yeah,
forces
your
your body to
cell
pump.
is
And
drowned in fluids.
so she can't do dialysis, and it started to shut down her kidneys. And because it started to shut down her kidneys, she had all this fluid in her body that was like her potassium levels spiked really, really high because she had a bunch of electrolytes in her system and she couldn't get rid of it. She couldn't get it out of her body. So her heart started going crazy because of that. And then other things started to cascade. And
So my point is exactly you cannot do whatever you want.
no, I didn't mean that you could do it. I didn't mean that it was right to do
You
whatever
can
you
do
wanted.
whatever you
I'm saying
want
you can.
within the range that you were given, that your
Correct.
ability. Let's say, for
And we've been
example,
given a pretty
you
big range as humans.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is your gene give you that manifestations of the range you have.
Right.
Other animals don't have the gene to give them that kind of range, so you cannot do whatever you want. You can only do what you want in that limitations of your range.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, it's
I mean, you
but
have
we're
two
but
hands, right?
I guess
It's right, left hand or right hand. That's the choices. If you have 10 toes, right, you have 10 choices. That's what I'm saying.
right.
Is the manifestations of your gene give you those options,
Yeah, but
but you
we're
cannot do
idiots.
whatever you want.
But we're idiots, and we can run uphill if we want to, if we choose to, for whatever dumbass reason, we can choose to go run up the hill, even if it kills us.
You
And
can
it
only
kills us
run up
really
the hill
fast.
only unless it's sloped in a way that you can do it. If it's sloped too much, then you can't. I'm just saying. I don't care how you put it. It is
I agree with you.
within your limits.
I
I
agree.
mean, if it slopes, to like,
I mean, I know we love
slowly,
I know
you
we
go
love the
all the
beaver.
way up. It's like, forget it.
I guess the only thing I'm trying to get at is like coming off the heels of just finishing the omnivore's dilemma, right? I love the idea of the beaver museum. It's so simple. It's a koala
It's
must
supposed
eat.
to be simple.
I know, like a koala must
It's
eat.
a representation. It's the
I get it.
mascot
When you
of
just got to
things.
do one thing, you just do it, you know. And I
No,
agree.
it's not about one thing. It's about doing you. So
I,
that's not to get confused with to do one thing. It's to do you. Who you are.
yes,
Let's say you're a painter
eliminate
and
all
a
all the
thinker
other
or
things.
a philosopher, then you be the philosopher thinker or
Right.
the philosopher painter. You want to be king and philosopher king, right? I'm not telling you to be only one thing. I'm just saying a beaver has only one thing. His manifestation is one thing. If you have more faculties, then you can do more faculties.
Right.
I'm not telling you to limit yourself. I'm telling you that you got to manifest who you are.
I agree. I mean, we are 100% in agreement with this. I guess the only I'm not. I mean, this is my last attempt at this one. I was saying that we technically can funnel all that down. We have a lot more that we could funnel down into that beavering. You know what I mean? Like the beaver only has one option, in my opinion, and that's what they do. We have a lot of different options that we can funnel down into that thing. And then once we do that, I agree with you. We should do what the beaver does, like naturally.
One step at a time, though. One step at a time. We cannot understand all of the different options that we have as a human because we are more complex than the beaver. But the thing is, unless somebody understands the fundamental of what we're saying,
you got to get to
the beaver first,
right.
and then take that and say, well, I'm not a beaver. Okay, that's cool. Now I can understand a bit more. I can say, well, because human has a lot more faculty, maybe 100 more than a beaver does.
Right.
And yeah, just take that and extrapolate to, okay, what are the optimal combinations of all the faculties I have to make me be the best who I am?
Right. I don't disagree at all. I think as it relates back to this particular thing is this particular book and this particular reflection. Like we have so much that we can explore, and we all want to figure this out. Like I actually love this. Wasn't my original reflection, message. But I do love the conversation about don't do it alone. Like this, that's what this guy's problem was. He did it by himself. Like I think he would have been fine. I think he would have survived. I think he would have came home, and I think he would be living a happy, meaningful life at this point in time if he had anybody else that would have been able to go on the show. And that's the ironic thing about this book too, is when you read it, like a lot of people liked him a lot. Like he would meet a lot of people along the way, and he would actively push them aside, and he's like, nope, I'm going on and doing this stuff by myself. And like, and this is what happens when you figure out when you try to go find live your meaning and your purpose and find that stuff out by yourself. Like is you take yourself into some stupid ass shit, and fingers crossed you can get out of it, right? But unfortunately for him, he didn't. So I actually really love that message. That just final thought for the day would be like, don't do it alone. Like I mean, like there's another way.
I think that should be the reflection title for this book.
Well,
this is a lesson.
It is. No, it is. I mean, there's plenty of those to come in the future. I'll stick with the title of this one, but yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think.
Well, I'm not going to change the title. I'm just saying it should be. I mean, to me, the takeaway from today's discussions, as for my personal note, is to never do alone. And this is one of the things that reaffirms the core values that we have inside of Clubany.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. I mean, you could go try to, do all this shit by yourself, or you can do it with somebody else. And I have a really sneaking suspicion that you'll actually get to where you want to go when you do it with somebody else. And I have a sneaking suspicion you end up dead on a creek side in the Alaskan, bush, if you don't.
And I don't doubt that at all. I mean, in my mind,
because questing is dangerous, man.
Yeah, it is.
Seriously, questing is dangerous. I mean, we talked about this before in the past too. It's like, make sure
it's not easy. It's not easy.
Make sure you have your compass.
I mean, life is hard, right?
Yeah.
Life is always, you are stumble up on traps after traps, and people, they're out there, and they don't necessarily going to benefit you.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to make sure that your alignment with somebody else who has your back, and they have your back, and you have their back.
I agree. I wonder what this guy's atomic bomb event was. Actually, I wish we could have known that, because something set him down this journey, and I don't know what it was, but like, but I wish we could figure it out. I wish we were there to help him. I wish Clubany was around to help Chris McCandless back when, when he was going through this. But unfortunately, we can't with him, but we can with other people. So hopefully, if anybody's watching this, and they're curious to learn more, like,
and
if
anyone is struggling, right, come to Clubney,
and it doesn't have to be a struggle. If they're just questioning,
but
if you're on a quest,
is, I guarantee you, there's always a struggle, because that's life.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Life is always going to present you with struggle, because I'm telling you, I have experienced myself, because when I do anything alone, I mean, I go 10 days, right, into the journey. Like, one of those days, it's going to have something that's going to that's going to trip me. Okay. Yeah. Right. And I can even go 100. I guarantee you, one of them in 100 is going to trip me. So who is going to be there to help me recover, not even to stop me from tripping, but to help me recover from the tripping and continue on the journey? Because some of these tripping could continue to derail that path completely and forever.
Yeah, you're right.
And the chances for doing that is going to be guaranteed. So it's about, okay, if you're searching for something, come and see if you can have an accountability buddy to move along with you, to watch your back.
Yeah, I totally agree. Actually, you just made me think about when I used to gamble a lot. And you know how I've told you many times, like, it gives me like the Mufasa shivers whenever I think about it, like when I gambled, I never wanted to gamble with somebody else ever. Like, I mean, and if I would have had somebody else there with me, they would have been like, yo, this is not you. It's like, I know you like it, but like, you need to stop, like, now, like, right. You need to get back on the course. Like, you need to get back on the right path, the right quest path, because yes, you might be beavering right now on accident. You might naturally be inclined to this, but like, this is not like, but to this whole conversation, like, if I would have kept going down that road by myself, like, thank God, like, I don't know how I accidentally got pulled off of that path, to be honest with you, but like,
yeah, I say, the potential for you to derail your life is so real.
It's very real. I could easily imagine my life, quickly at the age of like 23,
you could
24,
be homeless by now.
For sure. I mean, like, none of my family wanted to talk to me, because I'd probably have robbed them by now and like stolen money so I can continue feeding my gambling addict, whatever, something along those lines. Like, I mean, I could easily see the negative compound effect of that. But I guess the point I was trying to get at was, every time I gambled, I only wanted to do it alone. I didn't want to be around other people when I gambled, because I was like, look, this is what I want to do. This is my beavering, but I want to go do this on my own, like, and this is like I'm in my own element, in my own zone.
But the thing is, I'm telling you, even if you say, the thing is, even if you go say, I want to be a gambler, having other gambler will actually save you, because certain things, like, I agree. That, right?
Oh,
the thing
for sure.
is, you just find people who has your same core value, whatever it is. You want to be a thief, right? Have other thieves with you. Right. Think about it. There's a band of thieves is going to have more successful than the lone thief, because lone thief always get killed.
Or think of Ocean's 12, or Ocean's 11. I mean,
I'm not saying you should be.
But if you are, don't do it alone. I agree with you. I mean, yeah, I probably would still be a professional poker player.
It's to illustrate an example. I'm not advocating anyone to be a thief, because that just goes against most people's core values. And if your core value to be a thief, then I can't say it. But to truly say that you're a thief, you probably need to have, really think about it.
Right. If you want to make a career out of it, like, you better have somebody else around you to help you. I totally agree. All right. We're officially down a path. We're off the path for the day. So, yes. Question we can leave for everyone is, how can you learn the lessons of life without having to go to the extremes to find it? Maybe that question could also be, are you doing it alone? Like, that's another question we could ask for today. So,
another thing for me from this reflection is, the question I would say is, how can you survive through the extremes
by yourself?
Is this no there's going to be extremes, but how can you survive the extreme? Because like I say, sometimes like atomic bomb will come to you. You have no control over that. Mm-hmm. You just don't. But how do you get out of the rubble, right? And to me, the only way to do it, and the best way to do it, I'm not saying the only way, but the best way to do it is to have somebody who can give you a hand, give you that lifeline, watch your back.
Agreed. For sure. 100%. So But thanks for joining, and thanks for the great conversation as always. And we will look forward to seeing you guys all tomorrow.
Yep.
And have a good night.
Good night.